Hey everyone, in today's video I wanted to go over my buffing build for Luna. Took me a while to figure out the calculations for Luna, but I finally figured them out. I have a whole list of information that I'm going to be posting on the Reddit and maybe in a text document. So obviously if you're just here for the build, here's the build. The main ones you're wanting are the first three at the top. Enlightenment for the 15.2. Arche Concretion. This one gives 1 stack of arch for 20 seconds, and whenever you use an enhanced skill you gain 10 stacks. And this goes up to 30 stacks total, and each stack gives it 1.3 max MP from your base MP, and HP conversion for the max MP plus 20%. You'll obviously lose the 50% HP, but you can also put on increased HP for more HP and Ball of Stamina for the duration. Now under Exciting Sound, you have your skill power increase max MP times 3.5, and the one that's below is Enhanced, which you're going to be using the most, is for the 7.5, and it gives crit damage increase and a crit rate damage increase for your allies. And the more duration you have, the longer the buff will last on your allies. So you want duration, duration, and duration. Skill extension, maximize duration, and Battle of Stamina. And then you can obviously increase the range, which is the radius at the top. So on Note Success, under it says range. The max expandable range is only 250, and I've already got 186%. So you have skill expansion and maximize range. And then the last two is up to you. I'm just using increased HP and increased defense for more survivability. This red mod doesn't actually matter too much. This mod provides your Vivants. So whenever you buff allies, you grant yourself the buff. This buff lasts for about 20 seconds and you can get max stack of 20. So every stack you gain 1% movement speed boost ratio, and that can go up to 20 stacks, which means a total of 20%. And then for your skill range boost, this isn't really all that important since we've already basically got the max range. So for the max range it says radius at 22.9, the max range you can get is only 24, which means I'm only missing 1.1 meter. And it says skill range boost ratio per required stack. The required stacks is 2, which you can see above. So you need 2 stacks per 10%, which means you can get 100%. So at 20 stacks you get 100%. So when you're playing Luna and you buff an ally, the buff is only applied to the base stats of the Descendant. So whenever you buff an ally, the base stats are the ones that get buffed before any of the modules are applied. This is similar to Arche Concretion. This mod grants a 1.3% increase to the max MP per stack up to 30 stacks. Each enhanced skill gives 10 stacks and adds a fixed amount per stack, and the fixed amount is calculated from the base max MP. So if I take off Enlightenment and HP conversion, and then I remove my sensor which also has max MP, I'll have a base max MP of 300. So for the calculations, base max MP 300. So for Arche Concretion, the calculation of increase per stack is based off of the base max MP, which is 300. So percentage increase per stack is 1.3. We get the 1.3 from the mod, so each stack is 1.3. And for the calculation we do 300 times 0.013, which is 3.9. So each stack adds 3.9 to the max MP. So if I use my ability and get 1 stack, I go to 303.9, so that adds 3.9. Then when I get another stack, I have 2 stacks, this goes up to 307.8. Now with the calculator, 300 plus 3.9, that's 1 stack, and then add another 3.9, that's 307.8. So each stack adds 3.9. So if I do 3.9 times 30, I get 117, and if I do 117 plus 300, I should have a total of 417 when I use all 30 stacks. So if I get up to 30 stacks, there's 11 stacks, there's 21, and then I'm at 30. I'll have 417. So I've done the calculations for 10 stacks, so 3.9 times 10, that's 39, which gives me a total of 339. And then for 30 stacks, I have 3.9 times 30, which is 117, so 417. Now if we move on to the Enlightenment mod, we can add Enlightenment for the 15.2. This will then increase my MP to 345.6, but all mods are calculated from the base MP, so they don't all combine together. So for example, if I have 345 from the Enlightenment mod, and then I also put on HP conversion, this doesn't do the calculation on top of it, it does it from the base MP. So with the Enlightenment mod calculation without stacks, you have the base MP, and then you apply the Enlightenment mod, which is 15.2%, so base MP which is 300 times 1.152, and that gives me 345.6. And then for the calculation with the enlightenment mod with the 30 stacks, we do the first calculation, which gives us 345.6, which is the enlightenment mod. And then with the stacks, we do 3.9 times 30, which is 117. So 345.6 plus 117 gives us 462.6. So if we get up to the 30 stacks again, we get 462.6. Now for the demonstration we'll do HP conversion, which gives plus 20%, and we remove the enlightenment mod for the demonstration. That gives us 360 from base. So we do base max MP times 1.20, so 300 times 1.20, that gives us 360, which is what we got. And then if we get the stacks, we obviously get 3.9 times 30, which equals 117. So with just HP conversion and the stacks, we get 477. So if we get up to 30 stacks again, we have 477. Now if we do HP conversion and enlightenment without the stacks, so we get the 60 from HP conversion and the 45.6 from enlightenment, this gives us 105.6, which means our base should be 405.6. So we get 405.6. Now if we do both mods plus the 30 stacks, so we have the 60 from the HP conversion, the 45.6 from enlightenment, we add these together we get 105.6, so that gives us 405.6, which we have. And then the 117 from the 30 stacks, so 3.9 times 30 equals 117, so 405.6 plus 117 gives us 522.6, so if we get up to 30 stacks again, we have 522.6. Now, the thing with sensor, this actually increases your base max MP, and this is actually affected by mods. So this is before the mods are applied, which changes the calculations. So instead of the base max MP of 300, we have base max MP of 455, and that's only due to my sensor having 155. So I put on my sensor, I get base MP of 455. This changes the calculations. So with the HP conversion mod, instead of getting 60, we get 91. So it's 455 times 0.20, which should give us 546. So if we put on HP conversion, we should get 546. And then if we take it off and put an enlightenment on, we'll get 524.16. And we get this from the 69.16. So 455 plus 69.16, that gives us the 524.16. Now we add them both together, that gives us 160. So we have enlightenment and HP conversion, that gives us 160. So 455 plus 160.16, we'll get 615.16, which is right here, 615.16. And then if we do the new calculation for the Arche Concretion stacks, we get 1.3% of max MP, and since the new MP is 455, we do 455 times 0.013, which gives us 5.915. So every stack now gives 5.915 instead of 3.9, which means if we do 30 stacks, we get 177.45 instead of 117. And then if we do it 615.16 plus 177.45, we'll get a total of 792.61 total max MP. So if we go all the way up to 30 stacks again, we got a total max MP of 792.61. And with that MP, we'll obviously get the skill power increase for allies. So whenever we boost our allies, we get 792 times 7.5%, and that increases their base skill power boost ratio, so they'll be dealing more damage. On top of that, you'll also get the critical hit damage increase and the critical hit rate increase as well. The critical hit rate increase and the critical hit rate damage are both applied before mods. So if your teammates are using critical hit damage or critical hit rate increase, these mods are applied after. So for example, if you're using the skill insight for the critical hit rate. These mods are applied after you give the buff to your allies, which means if your allies have 15% critical hit rate for base, which means if your allies have a base of 15% critical hit rate, I give them plus 35, which boosts them to 50%, and then these mods are added afterwards on top of that 50%. So instead of these mods boosting their 15%, these mods now boost the 50%. For your components, it doesn't really matter. I'm just using Slayer. You can obviously go for the Annihilation set for the 2-piece, which is the skill duration, but this doesn't really add much. It will add a little bit. For example, if I grab an Annihilation set out of my locker, right now I have the duration of 9.8. I will then put on the Annihilation set, and this increases it to 10.1, which adds 0.3 seconds. So this is entirely up to you if you want to do that. But the only one that really matters is your max MP, as this increases your base MP, which is what's modified by the mods. So this one's really important. And then for your reactor, it doesn't really matter. The one thing that I would say is skill duration up, as this increases your duration. So without it, my duration is only 9.3, and then with it, I get a 0.5. You can obviously go for a skill effect range. This will then max out your range on your actual skill. So instead of 22.9, you'll have maximum of 24. But for me personally, I find that the duration up is more important for the extra 0.5, but the rest of it doesn't really matter. The weapon doesn't matter either. The only things that really matter are these. So you go for max MP, max MP, max MP, duration, 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 then you get 2 range mods, and then your survivability. So these 2 are both changeable if you want. I've seen some people saying that you could go for passionate sponsor. You could. The firearm attack doesn't do anything for you, since you'll be using your unique weapon anyway. The skill power modifier obviously does increase it, but since I'm already in the negatives, I'll only gain like half. So for 10 stacks of Passionate Sponsor, you'll gain 75%. Skill power modifier is not really worth anything really, especially if you're doing a buffing build. So right now I'm at 152.3, and I add 75, that gets me up to 227, and I take away 193.4. That means I'm gaining only 33.9% extra skill power modifier. This doesn't add much damage, and since I'm having max range, this gives me the skill power modifier minus 20, and then I have duration, which is minus 21.1. Obviously when you go into the void intercept battles, you won't be able to gain your stacks instantly. So for example, if I lose all my stacks, most of the time when you're in a void intercept boss battle, you'll be starting off with nothing. But at the start, you can obviously preload your skills, so you can go into your first to pull out your unique weapon, and you can press your first and second as they have the lowest cooldowns. And you can keep switching between the second and third until the boss spawns. And then when the boss spawns, just switch to your fourth, as your fourth allows you to gain your resource at the bottom. And every time you shoot, you gain your resource. Once you're fully maxed out on your resource, you want to use your second ability, and this boosts your teammates. You won't be able to gain your 30 stacks. You'll have a bit like between 15 and 20, but it's still pretty good as it adds 5.9 per stack. Another thing that people might not know is that cooldown doesn't affect anything. So for example, on my second, I have cooldown on note success. If I put on nimble fingers, this cooldown doesn't change. The only one that changes is the on note failure, and this means if you fail your notes every single time, you'll have less of a cooldown. But if you're failing your notes anyway, then you shouldn't really be playing Luna. Now I'm going to invite a friend, and we're going to go do some boss fights, just to demonstrate how Luna's buff actually affects your teammates. So the ones we're going to test is Executioner and Pyro, as the friend I'm wanting to play with is wanting to test their Freyna build. So Executioner is very weak to poison, and Pyromancer has the normal attribute resistance for toxic. And then I'll be doing some public games of Frostwalker, as most people will be using Luna to buff Lepix in Frostwalker. If you found the video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, it really helps the channel a lot. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.